Hello, my name is Noah, and this semester I was in educational psychology where I learned many different concepts that I could take and use in my classroom, especially next semester during student teaching. The topics I discuss today are important as they will help make me an outstanding teacher who can connect with the students. First up, Vygotsky. Vygotsky believed that learning precedes development. This belief that children are constantly learning is important as I will be a large part of their learning process. Not only will the learning be content, but also social and emotional skills. Here's where children can self-regulate to learn the skills they need to be successful humans. However, this learning needs to be chunked so that students have time to process information they have learned. This chunking is called scaffolding. A great example of scaffolding is the gradual release of responsibility model, where the teacher releases the responsibility of the learning onto the student. Let's look at an example. I am teaching a choral piece to a choir, and I want the choir to be able to sing their parts on their own. In part 1, I model the parts for my students. In part 2, we sing it as a class. In part 3, the class sings all together, and in part 4, each student can sing the part by themselves. For these students to be able to sing the part on their own, they must be in what Vygotsky calls the zone of proximal development. Here in this zone, the bulk of student learning occurs and the student processes information best. If not in this zone, students may be in a fight or flight response in which their learning has stopped occurring. I would not be who I am today without the interactions of my family, friends, and school. This is the same belief Bronfenbrenner held in that our social interactions help us develop. I must be aware of students' backgrounds and how their interactions, especially at home, affect their learning and themselves. Remember, students who may be having a rough day following instructions may have an outside source as to why they are struggling. Our fifth topic from the semester is Erikson's 8 stages of psychosocial development. These 8 stages of psychosocial development are important because they help students develop problem-solving skills and/or critical thinking. The young girl doing the puzzle in the photo is currently problem-solving to find pieces that fit together to create a picture. This critical thinking is important in Erikson's stages of development as each dilemma helps to develop a personality within the student. As a teacher, especially one that will be endorsed K through 12, the students I teach will be in different stages of development. I must acknowledge these stages as the student's learning will be affected by each stage. Let's take a look at one stage, for example. The autonomy versus doubt stage is important as students who may be stuck in this stage are dependent. Students with parents who are overprotective are in doubt and will not be able to do things for themselves. Next, we have Kohlberg's stages of moral development. In each stage, there is a distinct development occurring, and each child faces a stage of moral reasoning. This moral reasoning also provides the student with problem-solving opportunities and critical thinking skills. As a teacher, I need to understand that students may be facing a moral dilemma, and I can be there to help them and support them in their moral reasoning. Furthermore, Kohlberg's stages are split into 3 different levels of moral reasoning with 2 stages each. The pre-conventional level is where children simply obey authority figures. At the conventional level, the saying, "treat others how you want to be treated," applies. And lastly, at the post-conventional level, which is not attained by many, is a realization that laws and values in society are arbitrary. Let's look at an example at the pre-conventional level. Student A catches student B cheating on the test. However, both students are best friends. Does student A turn in his best friend? Here is where student A would face a moral dilemma of whether or not to tell the truth because it's the right thing to do, or keep the secret safe between them. Moving on, James Marcia's 4 identity stages are a hot topic for students in high school. Big decisions have to be made in high school, and at this stage, students are also trying to discover their identity. For me, I want to have a supportive classroom environment where my students can feel comfortable expressing themselves and their decisions on identity. A great example of Marcia's identity status is choosing whether or not to go to college. This is a big decision for many students graduating from high school. Can I as a teacher support my students? Absolutely! One way is to show that I support them in their choice to go to college or not. This hopefully will help me build a trusting relationship between me and my students. Memory could be a Pecha Kucha of its own. With so many different components, it's hard to know where to start. However, I think memory is a very important topic, especially in education. All of these topics that we have discussed so far deal with the brain and memory in some way. Whether it's remembering information just learned in class or recalling information, memory is a key concept. Long-term memory is a part of the memory system that stores information for long periods, such as remembering how to ride a bike. It is of very large capacity, which allows for a long-term memory store. This is important because when I am teaching my students, I want them to store information in their long-term memory. Short-term memory is also a part of the memory system, which is also called working memory. This memory system only stores information for small bits of time. One way I can make sure that the information I am teaching does not get lost is to review the information and use study games or space study to help the information process into long-term memory. Cramming is something we all have done. Even I have crammed for a big test the night before. However, this is not effective. As a teacher, I can help my students develop good study habits by integrating study tips into my lessons by modeling them. Then, students can use these strategies the next time they take a test to store the information in their long-term memory. The last topic, and not least important, is the classroom environment I create. In educational psychology, we always had an attendance question at the beginning of class. I felt that this strategy helped to create a healthy environment and that made everyone in the course feel like one big family. This is a goal of mine when I attain my own classroom. In addition, making the classroom environment feel welcoming and safe is part of my philosophy as a teacher. Understanding educational psychology is important to me, and these topics are only part of what I truly got out of this class. This class has helped me to become more of an intentional teacher and taught me skills I can use in my future classroom.